Good afternoon, and it's 2014 spring training. It's the end of the spring training trip for me and the Before the Glory series. And we are in Jacksonville today speaking to big league pitcher and also spent much time with coaching after his career was over, Larry Jaster. Larry, it's good to spend a few minutes with you. A nice afternoon here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's nice today. It's supposed to rain a couple of days from now, but it's very nice right now.
You were born and raised in Michigan, and if people are watching this on YouTube and they say Midland, Michigan, how would you, from Michigan, how would you say to the folks that have never been to Michigan, where's Midland, Michigan? Although I know the word mid's in there, I'm still dependent on you to teach.
Well, if you can put a hand up in the air, I guess it's this way. Midland, Michigan. This is the state of Michigan, like the big hand.
Sure.
Midland, Michigan. Detroit's down here. Midland, Michigan's kind of in this area. It's near Saginaw Bay City, and their main plant there forever has been Dow Chemical Company.
And how far north of Detroit? How far was your car ride as a kid if you ever went to the city?
2 to 3 hours, just depending on traffic. It's pretty much 2 hours straight north, almost.
Question number 2 is an easy one. You're a member of the Jaster family, brothers and sisters. How many kids are there from mom and dad?
Well, I have 3. I have one brother who's a couple years younger than me that actually played with Terry Collins. Terry Collins is from that same town. And I have 3 children. My oldest played AAA baseball. He was an outfielder named Scott Jaster. I have a daughter who's in Atlanta. Scott's in Midland, Michigan. He ended up there, I don't know how, but he did meet a girl from Midland down in Florida when he was playing pro baseball at St. Lucie. So, and then my youngest son is in Denver. He's a doctor.
So the Jasters are literally at different parts of the country.
Right, they're all spread out, and there's 6 grandkids involved.
You said you were raised by your mom. What's your mom's name, and what did she do? Because she had to balance home life and doing things to put food on the table.
Yeah, pretty much. My dad died when I was 9 of cancer, and she pretty much raised my brother and myself. And she did it with an iron hand. She was from a big family, about 8 sisters and 3 brothers, and mainly she was taking care of her brothers and sisters when she grew up, but and mainly she just did a lot of house cleaning type jobs when I was young, and I just remember she just kept me involved in sports all the time and didn't let me get away with anything, and just taught me a lot of respect.
You told me before we started to videotape, she used 2 things to raise you, and there was reasons for those 2 things. What were they?
Right, it was a willow stick if I did anything wrong, and it was a bar of soap if I said anything wrong.
Come on. That's good stuff.
But it didn't take me many times of messing up to realize I didn't want to go through that again, as far as the stick or the bar of soap.
I guess another way of making reference to her is she was the consistent iron fist.
Right.
It's pretty good.
The willow stick didn't really hurt, it just stung. It'd sting you. And of course the bar of soap, you couldn't get it out of your teeth. It was ivory. I remember it was ivory soap. So
I like it. With high school, you were playing both football and baseball. And then you end up with your college credits with a degree and a master's degree in education. So it's a fair question to say, if you reflect back on high school, what was, and I'm going to take away physical education, so as a school teacher, but what was the subject that you had the most interested in 4 years of high school that did garner your attention?
I like math quite a bit, actually. I was pretty good at math. And I know at that time my grades weren't A's, they weren't D's. They were mostly B's, mostly B grades. So I wasn't a bad student, but I just did enough to make sure I was eligible to play.
And they didn't have the draft then, so you were either brought out of high school by a team or you were going to go to college. So when it becomes graduation day from high school in Michigan, what was your move?
Well, I had scholarship offers in football, so that actually helped me with baseball and maybe getting a little more bonus than what would have been normal at that time. And I had one knee injury already in football, even though I had a scholarship offer from Michigan State. So I decided baseball was the way I was going to go, and there was enough bonus money involved and progressive bonus money and money for school involved that it was an easy choice at that time for me to just go from high school right to pro baseball.
And that meant as a teenager, after high school graduation, you're packing your bags, you're leaving home for the Cardinals organization. Where did they send you? You said goodbye to your mom and you had to go wherever the Cardinals were sending you.
Yeah, actually it was in Canada. It was Winnipeg, Canada.
The connection started then.
So maybe it's ironic that I ended up throwing the first pitch in Canada, because I ended up throwing the first pitch of my pro minor league career in Canada.
And you started to move up the Cardinals chain. What was the year you graduated from high school and left home for the Cardinals organization?
62, and I made it in 65, so I made it at a pretty young age.
You truly were, wet behind the ears, one of the youngest ones on that St. Louis Cardinals team.
Right, and I hadn't been away from home much. I'd pitched baseball in Detroit in the summer baseball my junior year of high school, but that's really the only time I'd been away from home, so it was quite an ordeal just going away from home, but that didn't seem to bother me. I think you get a little homesick at first, but it was only at the first season. You go in June, you're back in August, so it wasn't that long a period of time.
I know that years ago when I started this, I would bring in some retired players. They would talk to the kids and sign a bunch of cards or things that I would hold on to give to them on Fridays, so that I would use it as ransom until the end of the week. But I'd love for you to chat about two guys that I still get to see quite a bit. You're the youngest guy on the staff, but you did spend some time either watching or talking to two well-known pitchers, Kurt Simmons and Bobby Shantz. Your memories of being the young guy and how they were to you as the veterans of the staff with the Cardinals.
Right, they both took me under their wing, treated me with great respect. It was like that I was their son. I mean, that's the way they treated me. So I've always had great respect for those two people.
When you got to be in your late 30s and you're still in baseball, if you got to look into a crystal ball, do you think it was easy because of that experience? You were able to do the same thing to young kids at 20, 21, and 22 when you were in your late 30s and early 40s. Was it an easy thing of transition for you because it happened to you?
Right, and I was always taught to treat people with respect. It's the way my mom brought me up, but I think those experiences, the way the older players treated me, is the way it rubbed off on me when I had younger players either coming up in professional ball or a younger player in high school when I was coaching.
Before I ask you the obvious question, a Gibson question, I'd like to turn the tables back to Jaster. If baseball fans look up leaders, there's leaders in ERA, there's leaders in strikeouts, wins, shutouts. Bob Gibson didn't lead the Cardinals in shutouts for a season. Not only did you lead the Cardinals in shutouts, but you led the league. One of the things that's unique about this, that it's almost mathematically impossible to repeat, is that you led the league in shutouts, but one team really did not want to see you take them out. Share the year, the team, how many shutouts. It's a good story.
Right, it was 5 shutouts over one team in one season, and they were consecutive. So it is still a record just because they were consecutive shutouts. Some pitchers have done that, but they weren't consecutive. And it's really crazy because I remember a lot of situations, first and third, one out, I get a double play ball, my defense turns a double play. And I only gave up 24 singles in that game, which was really amazing to me when I look back at that because of all the speed they had. You know, Maury Wills for sure, that they didn't have an extra base hit during those 5 games. So.
Well, there's only a 4-man staff, and we're talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers. did you shut out, it's an obvious question, we could look it up, but I'll ask you if you remember. One of those had to be against Koufax or Drysdale.
Well, it wasn't Koufax. I never pitched against Koufax, believe it or not.
No kidding.
It was Drysdale and Sutton and Claude Osteen.
And three great pitchers,
Yeah,
you know.
you're right.
Two of the three are in the Hall of Fame, and Claude won 200 games.
Right.
Yeah.
So you couldn't give up more than 1 or 2 runs and expect to win. So that's always an incentive not to give up runs when you go out there. You know, you're thinking, well, nobody's getting, the way my mindset was, nobody's getting any hits today. When they get a hit, well, I'm going to shut them out today. I mean, that's just was my mindset. I think that's what you get. It's almost like when you pitched against the Mets when they were young. You know, Kuzma, Seaver, Gentry, McAndrew, and Nolan Ryan was there for a while. Same type of.
Gil Hodges really was the right man to work with youth on that staff and to make that transition in 2 seasons, coming over from the Washington Senators. I mean, it's forever the Miracle Mets, because 2 years before they were in last place.
Right, and it's dealing with 25 personalities is a key as a manager nowadays, even more so, because all the big money, you're really dealing with big money and the personalities, trying to keep everyone happy.
You obviously, the one Bob Gibson question I have is for young fans. They may only know a couple of things without going on the computer and doing research. They'll know Bob Gibson was a pitcher, Bob Gibson was a Hall of Famer, or Bob Gibson was a Cardinal. So I throw that out the window. From your youth in Michigan until your retirement here years later in Florida, before this tape started rolling, you said he was the most intense competitor of any athlete you've ever met. Elaborate on sitting in the bullpen or sitting in the dugout and what you saw, because that is the #1 guy in your entire life of the level of competition and hunger.
Right, it was just a mentality, the way he went about his work, his work during the week, his pregame work, just his intensity on the mound, the way he would bunt or swing the bat. I mean, he hit 280 as a pitcher, I think. He probably could have played regular at another position if he wanted to. And a day of the brushback, he didn't care who was up there. He had everybody had the same face when he went out there. It was just an opponent's face until the game was over.
Do you think, because there's one of your 24 teammates and it's the anchor of the pitching staff and you're a pitcher, do you think that transition happened for you where whatever Jaster had inside, you were maximizing, picking it up a notch, just because there's your leader of the staff, of your intensity? Maybe it was a given that got you that far anyway, but he was also watching his teammates when he wasn't pitching.
Right, he was in charge of his teammates. You had to pitch well to be accepted, but once you're accepted with him, you were one of his teammates. And I think I was brought up with that intensity just because I had to survive, you know, with just a mom. But that just intensified things when I met him or saw him do things, you know, on the field.